How big the family? Only $529. That's $529 for the entire family. To learn how you can save, go to lightyourliberty.com. That's lightyourliberty.com.
It's time for Farm and Ranch headlines on the Southeast AgNet. I'm Tyron Spearman reporting. A recent webinar held by the National Peanut Board talked about what's going to happen to peanuts in the year 2022. One farmer on there was Jeff Roper of Lubbock, Texas. He said pest problems were not an issue this past year, but they do anticipate some this coming year. He said the biggest problem they've had in the past is grasshoppers. Grasshoppers coming out of the pastures. They would just mow down a cotton plant if they were young. So they didn't really affect the peanuts too much, but if they ever got in the peanut field, it could be a problem. But grasshoppers are a major problem. Bob Parker with the National Peanut Board said that most farmers said they expect the crop mix this coming year to be about the same as 2021. One farmer said he may plant a few more acres of peanuts if input costs continue to remain high due to the fact that peanuts are one of the most sustainable crops he grows and requires less fertilizer than corn or cotton. Jeff Roper also said that they've changed the program a little bit and allowing other states to grow peanuts, including Arkansas and others, and they are coming in with less disease, less insects, and are having a good quality crop.
The COVID-19 vaccine has...
And the thing I heard about the vaccine...
Sure, but do we really know about the long-term effects?
Did you read that thing on the internet?
He heard from his cousin that they don't...
Okay, you're hearing a lot of talk about the COVID-19 vaccines these days. So how do you find out if getting vaccinated is right for you? By talking to someone you already trust, your doctor or healthcare provider. They'll answer your questions so you can decide what's best for you and your family. Go to GetVaccineAnswers.org to find out more. That's GetVaccineAnswers.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Attention farmers, the Conservation Stewardship Program is now accepting applications. To learn more, visit your local USDA Service Center.
I'm Tyron Spearman for Southeast AgNet.
When it really counts, depend on the source for the latest weather updates, keeping you ahead of the storm. 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source.
Noticeably cooler weather on the way today. Plenty of sunshine with a high of 65 to 72. Then clear skies this evening. Low tonight 47 to 54. Tuesday will be mostly sunny and pleasant. High tomorrow 71 to 75. Then Wednesday and Thursday both will have sun and some clouds. High Wednesday 75 to 78. Thursday 76 to 78. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Holly Holdren.
You know what you want to do in retirement, but do you know how to get there? Join Gary and Don Crawford of Pinnacle Retirement Advisors for Retirement with Pinnacle, Saturday mornings at 9 to get answers to your retirement planning questions. Plan today so you can do the things you've always dreamt about doing in retirement. Don't miss Retirement with Pinnacle with Gary and Don Crawford, Saturday mornings at 9. Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC.
This is Ocala Talks with Tom Schmidt, bringing stories that are important to our community in and around Ocala. Plus, of course, a splash of sports as well. Now, here's your host, Tom.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks, hour number 2. It is the first Ocala Talks of the year. January 3rd, 2020. Hope you're having a great new year so far. In the studio with us, the first guest on Ocala Talks in the year 2020. I'm at 2022. I'm trying to digress. 2022. Chief of Police Mike Balken from the Ocala Police Department. Chief, good morning.
Good morning, Tom. I'm excited to be your first guest. I didn't realize that till you just said
first guest of the new year, 2022.
I couldn't be more honored. Thank you.
And we're going to do this every first Monday of the month. And I'm going to try to binge you and get you every third Monday of the month, too. I'm going to try to binge you a little bit and get you.
Okay.
We'll look at your schedule afterwards, and we'll figure it out.
I got nothing going on.
Well, no. You just got a city of 65,000 that you have to oversee their safety. That's all.
Yeah,
not a whole lot.
Yeah, it kind of runs itself.
You know, we say that in jest, but really, the men and women in your department, because they're so good, it starts from you and comes down the ranks. It really at times seems like it runs itself because they emulate what they learn from their or what they're instructed and what they see from their higher ups that emulate that come all the way from you, it really is almost like it's a machine that runs itself.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, the men and women on the boots on the ground do most of the work, and quite frankly, Tom, I couldn't be more proud of the 309 employees that we have there at the department. But you're right. Yeah, on a Saturday and Sunday, I'm at the house, right? Typically, so yeah, I rest pretty good knowing that it's in good hands when I'm not there.
Not a golfer though, are you?
Yeah, I tried it a couple times and just that's the most frustrating game I've ever played.
Don't tell him that I said this, but I've watched a mayor play. It looks like he's only tried it 2 or 3 times. Don't tell him I said that.
I won't repeat
Don't tell him
that.
I said that.
No, that's the boss. I can't
now, one of your other bosses, Jay Musley, now he's serious about his game.
Is he pretty good?
He's serious about his game.
Huh.
And one of your former bosses, John McLeod,
Yeah,
really serious about his game.
I've heard about him. Yeah,
really serious about his game.
No,
and Daniel Owen, really serious about his game.
I've seen him out on the course many times. I just, I get. It seems to me that's a game you can never really win.
No, it is not.
And I like to play to win. So
yeah, no, it's a game, but you're playing yourself. That's the good thing. The thing that's so enjoyable about golf, you're not playing anybody else.
Good
You're
point.
playing yourself. Look, Ben Hogan said the toughest 6 inches in golf are between your ears.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense. Now, give me a fishing pole any day.
See, and that to me, I'd rather watch paint dry. I'd rather watch lead paint on an asbestos wall dry than go fishing.
Nice.
Well, I say that. Are you mean freshwater fishing or deep sea fishing?
No, the salt. Yeah,
okay.
We fish
saltwater fishing. When you can go out and catch some reds and some drum and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Because they're out there and they're actually biting. You're actually getting. If you get the right captain take you out, you get in the right honey hole. You can fight for a day.
Oh, you'll wear them out for sure.
But you go sit on some pond around here, you're in your John boat and the mosquitoes are biting you and stuff. I got nothing for that.
I'm not really into that too. I'm a saltwater guy.
Just like I gave up hunting at 15, 16 because I just sitting in the tree stand in the cold. Somebody goes, yeah, but you can sort out your world problems. I can do that on a riding lawnmower too.
I was out in a tree stand yesterday, Tom, and about middle of the day, I was thinking to myself, what am I doing out here? I've wasted so much time waiting on some poor deer to walk out.
And you always do, and this is your thing. I'll sit here another 15 minutes, and if one don't walk by, I'll sit here another 15 minutes.
Yeah. Then the sunset, and you're right.
Yeah, it happens all the time. So with the new year coming in, what does that entail? When the new year starts with you guys, is that January 1 or is it the fiscal year that's November 1 with the city and everything? So it's like that.
Yeah, kind of both. Fiscal year, our new budget starts October 1.
October 1.
But January is when we start working on that budget. So that's first and foremost. I already got an email first thing this morning from my fiscal director saying, "Hey, it's time to get going." So yeah, I mean we've got a lot of work to do, and this is going to be a big year for us. I predict. With council's support and approval, obviously a substantial budget increase to account for the growth that we're seeing in the community.
Well, I know one of the hot topics that's going to be up for discussion all year is annexation.
Sure.
They're talking about annexing land in now so they can build some housing and everything inside the city. I know there's another push. There's going to be another push by a group here in town to talk to the city leaders about annexing Silver Springs because they think that's the best way to get septic tanks closed off and so they can save the springs and all. That grows your city that you're charged with overseeing with the men and women in the police force. Is that something y'all talk about on a regular basis?
Yeah, historically, Tom, I've been there for almost 29 years now, and historically, we would sit around and wait for the call volume to get so bad that our response times dropped, and before we really looked to hire new officers. And what people have to realize is, if you came to me today and said, "Hey, Chief, I want to be a cop," I'm going to have to put you through police academy, which is 6 months long, and then a month of orientation, and another 4 months of field training before I see you.
That's a year.
That's 11 months, and that's a brand new rookie 19-year-old cop. Half the time. So, we're working. We've wrapped up pretty much our strategic plan with really a 5-year outlook on just what you're talking about. The absolute crazy growth that we're seeing. Is that going to continue? They're working with growth management. They're working with the CEP, trying to get a handle on what do those numbers look like in the next 3 to 5 years, really, because we have to plan that far in advance.
I don't think people think, because I hadn't thought about that it takes you a year to bring a 19-year-old rookie from school all the way up to where they don't have their field officer with them anymore and they're on the road by their own. So if you don't start planning 3 to 5 years in advance, you're going to have a shortage constantly.
Yeah, and which is kind of where we're at now. Like I said, historically, I just think we in reality, we've never seen growth like we're seeing now in Ocala. So we've never seen it before. So yeah, it's going to take a different approach, and this comes at a time, of course, when there's not a whole lot of folks watching the nightly news saying, "Hey, I want to go out and be a cop." So we're fighting two things. We're fighting the exponential growth that we're seeing, all these annexations that you talk about, but we're also talking about a shallower pool of candidates that we're fighting everybody for. The sheriff, Gainesville, Alachua County, Orlando, Tampa, you name it. So
I read an article on Thursday of last week. I was sitting at home, and you're doing things on your computer, you're actually working, but you get caught up and something pops up, so you read it. And it was an article that popped up that said the top 10, they did a survey of fifth graders, and the top 10 jobs that fifth graders want to do now. And then they compared it with the top 10 jobs of fifth graders in 1970. You know what the 3 number 1 jobs were in 1970 for kids?
I don't know what the third one was. I'm sure police officer and fireman were in the first 3.
Police and fire were second and third.
Okay.
You know what was one? Astronauts. They just landed on the moon.
There you go. Right.
Okay, so astronaut was number 1, and then police and firemen.
Sure.
Firemen still in the top 10.
Yes, sir.
Police not in the top 10.
Yeah, I've read that myself, and it's a shame because it is to me it's a tremendously rewarding career that allows you to really to touch the lives of, over the course of a 30-year career, you're touching the lives of probably hundreds of thousands of people. And an opportunity to maybe make their what might be the absolute worst day that they'll ever have in their life, maybe to make it a little bit more bearable. So it's a pendulum swing for sure. I remember seeing this as I was coming into law enforcement. It was actually right after the Rodney King beating and the LA riots, where the pendulum swung one way, and then in contrast again 9/11 rolls around and everybody wants to be a cop, a fireman, or serve in the military. So this is a downward swing or whatever you want to call it, but we're expecting that to improve. I think our profession has done a poor job over the last few years of telling our story, and quite frankly allowing media to
tell it for you,
to tell it for us, and not really highlighting the absolute good that we do, and isolating those that are bad and get rid of them.
Well, the problem with letting the media tell the story, and I'm part of the media. Don't get me wrong. I rail against the people who are in this job description of mine, media, more than most. I think that we failed as media because we'll put Derek Chauvin kneeling on George Floyd's neck for 9 minutes. We'll put that on the 24-hour news cycle on every channel. We'll put, a cop that says she's pulling her taser, but she accidentally pulls her service weapon and shoots somebody. We'll put that on the news every night. But you had a sergeant. Greg was chief then. You were his deputy chief. But you had a sergeant that made national news, and she didn't even know she had made national news because she bought breakfast for her and a homeless person, and she sat on a curb and ate it with him, and somebody took a picture of it, and it went viral.
Right.
But the national news media didn't run with that. I think Inside Edition ran with it because it helped them fill story. But the national news media doesn't run with that. They don't run with, you had officers that were talked the man off of letting go. He was hanging on the outside of the fencing, about to drop onto I-75, and he got talked back into and came in. Those stories don't get, and we're in the media are at fault for this. Those stories don't get the just due that we give a cop kneeling on somebody's neck or anything. And it's because it's all about clickbait. It's all about what gets viewers' eyes and ears to the TVs, to the radios, and to the newspapers.
Comes down to the almighty dollar, right?
It does.
What sells commercial time and
no matter how it affects the job you have to do, to the media, it's all about money.
Right. And now I'll say this: I think the media plays an important role in keeping government where it needs to be. right? I mean, we work for y'all.
Certainly.
We work for the citizens. But, yeah, to focus on, again, I think I talked about this last time I was on. We've got 900,000 roughly 900,000 cops across the country. That equates to millions and millions of police citizen contacts
a day.
And the vast 99.999% of those go off without a hitch, and typically the cop is thanked for even writing a ticket, and people go on about their business. But don't get me wrong, we know that there's bad apples out there on occasion, and we try to isolate them quick and get rid of them and move on. We want the very best, and I remind people, cops are citizens too. I get to be a citizen first and a police chief second.
Once you take your badge off, you're just like you're John Q. citizen.
Right, and I I happen to live in the county outside the city limits, and I, like any other citizen, am going to demand the absolute highest level of police service from my sheriff that I possibly can, and demand that. And so I think that's incumbent upon us all. But yeah, the sensationalized news reports have definitely impacted our ability to recruit and retain police officers, for sure.
I'll give you a little story that happened to me last week. I forget whether it was Wednesday night. I think it was Wednesday night or Thursday night. It was one of those nights. And I was, my wife and I had been out. We'd had dinner, and we were coming back, and we were going to 25th Avenue, right by Skylark Veterinary, the bingo hall.
14th Street.
Right. And SUV, I see as I'm at 14th and 25th, there's an SUV right behind me with police on the front of the hood. So I know there's a police officer right behind me. So I cross over 14th, and sure enough, the lights come on. And I go, well, I'll pull over. Either he goes around me or he's pulling me over. Mm-hmm. He was to pull me over.
Okay.
He gets out. He comes up. He puts his light in the car. How you doing this evening? I said, good, officer. He said, can I see your license? I said, sure. He goes, do you know why I pulled you over? I go, no, actually, I do not. I saw you behind me at the red light, but I have no idea why you pulled me over. He says, well, your tag light's out. So I pull you over. Your tag light's out. Let me go back. I'll be back with you in a minute. Hang tight. Mm-hmm. He comes back up. He says, get the tag light fixed. Enjoy your week, and sent me on my way. That's one of those interactions that you say 99.999% of them, nothing ever happens. But actually something did happen. There was no way I'd ever know my tag light was out.
Sure, right.
You don't know your tag light's out. I'm driving.
Right.
The only time you ever look at your tag is when somebody points it out. So now he actually gave me a service of fixing my tag light and everything, something I didn't know was out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that those kinds of interactions. When you think about what a potential minor traffic violation like that could turn into, Timothy McVeigh.
Yeah,
was a prime example, right?
That's how they caught him.
Exactly. So yeah, those are important. Those is it a big deal that your tag light's out? Probably not. If it's dark out, he's behind you. His headlights can, light that tag.
He had the tag fine.
Absolutely, but look, it's on the statute book. It's a good probable cause to make the stop, and yeah, you could have been a wanted homicide suspect.
You never do. Hey, look, y'all make busts all the time where you get. I think there was a recent bust where you just got a bunch of pot off the street, bunch of fentanyl off the street, and everything, and it was in a traffic stop.
No, the vast majority of our arrests, I would argue, come from encounters just like that.
There was a traffic stop. How many people's lives did you save by getting that fentanyl off the street?
You'd like to think quite a few. Yes, sir.
Well, we know what the overdose rate is here in this area. It's not good.
No, we have already had our first overdose death of the new year. I think that was 2 nights ago. So
New Year's Day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was. So I saw that come across my phone, and it's a sobering reminder of just how bad the problem is.
Yeah, one that the former chief of police, Greg Graham, said we're never going to arrest our way out of.
No, we've talked about that. I was in meetings with my drug commander just last week, and we put a lot of time, money, and effort into going after these drug dealers. But the truth of the matter is, we could arrest 100 of them today, and there'll be 200 of them lined up for those jobs tomorrow. It's too lucrative. It really has to do. It's not a supply side. It's a demand side issue for us. And why we're in this sorts as Americans in 2022 is beyond me.
It is one of those things. And look. It is well documented that at one time in my life I was in that business.
Sure.
It's well documented. Mm-hmm. And that business, you can go to, right now you can go get $16 an hour at McDonald's.
Right.
$16 an hour. I could have somebody come to my apartment in 1993, 94. So that was 30 some odd years ago. I had to have somebody come to my apartment. They hang out for 30, 45 minutes so it didn't look like they were just popping in, popping out, I'd move enough weight with them that I made $10,000, $12,000 in 30, 45 minutes.
Right.
How are you going to tell me that I need to go work at McDonald's for $16 an hour when the supply and demand of capitalism says through the black market I can make $10,000 to $12,000 an hour?
You're right. It's hard to win that argument, isn't it?
There is no winning. You'll lose that argument every time.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, I think we have to come to terms with our addictive nature, certainly in the U.S. I mean, I think last I heard we're the biggest demand country for illegal narcotics, and I think that remains true as of late. But yeah, it's a sad story.
Well, a lot of people tell you though, Mike, that do like Holland does. Everything. It's up to you whether you do an illicit drug or not, and everything. Nothing's black market. It's all regulated and everything. And their addiction rate and their overdose rate is almost non-existent. So a lot of people say, why don't we do that?
Yeah, that's one good thing about being a cop and not a legislator is I don't.
You don't have to worry about that.
I mean, we can weigh in. I've heard about their results over there, and I don't know that that's I don't know that that's the right answer either. I remember reading a story in the history books years and years ago where the water was so bad in this country that most folks drank alcohol.
Yeah.
And they walked around in a stupor for about 2 decades. So I don't know what the answer is. It would be nice to get to the underlying causes of our addiction here in this country, figure out what those are, and deal with them. At a fundamental level.
Well, I know what the underlying causes of the opioid addiction is. It's called Big Pharma. I know what that is. Yeah. Well, anytime you send I watched that 60 Minutes again over the weekend where they were talking about opioids and everything. Right. How they sent 1.7 million opioid pills to a town in West Virginia that had 813 people in it.
Well, and half. If you only knew we had folks here in Ocala that were traveling in van loads to Tampa to the pill mills, buying from pain management clinics through the back door,
Roxy's and Oxys,
and driving them to West Virginia because the markup up there was so high.
Yeah,
and getting rich. These are 20 something year old kids, right?
Yeah,
right.
Uber wealthy.
It was crazy. Yeah.
But that's because opioids aren't addictive. Didn't you hear that from the drug companies?
Yeah, no, that's what they said. And shame on us, everybody from the attorney general down to, every, I would think almost every police chief and sheriff in our state, at least, I would argue around the country, moved to shut those pill mills down and really control the pill market because of overdoses. And of course, and it worked, right? We shut down all the pill mills. And what does that do to all your addicts? It pushes them into the black market.
Yeah, because now heroin is their go-to
heroin
because of it. And we're not talking about, the 70s junkie that you seen on Columbo or something like that. We're talking about soccer moms and dads and lawyers and doctors. And by the way, a couple times, police officers.
Absolutely.
This opioid crisis has affected John Q. Public. It didn't care about your race, your creed, your gender, none of that.
You're absolutely right. It's amazing. It's when you're dealing from a pain management perspective and you get these people hooked on these opiates, when you do away with those legal forms of opiates, nothing else is going to work other than an opiate to handle that issue. So, we at least as a state, legislators, even law enforcement, because of the wrangling of the pill mills and all that, if unfortunately, we've had some bad effects of what we try to do.
Do you know off the top of your head, or is it something you could get? Do we know what the totals were for last year?
Total overdose deaths
in the city?
I don't know them off the top of my head. Way more than what we could have ever expected. But I'll have that number for you next time.
Even though we got the amnesty program and we got all kind of outlets and you've cracked down on drug dealers by filing, the state attorney's office filed murder charges.
Mm-hmm, right.
And yet the number still increases.
The numbers are still going up, and unfortunately our amnesty participation rates continue to go down, which is a sad statistic, but it's true. And why that is, I don't know. I think there's a certain amount of people out there that, when they hit rock bottom, they're going to get help. And until you're there.
Rock bottom's an ugly place, brother.
Yeah. And it's interesting, that amnesty program is designed for you to be able to walk into the police department, hand me your drugs, hand me your paraphernalia, and then my officer takes you to a treatment.
You know how hard that is? I would have never been able to do that, and I was almost 2 8-ball a day guy, and I would have never been able to do that.
Wow. Well, I can tell you this, since the program's inception, I don't think there's been one person that's walked in and said, "Officer, here's my drugs, I'd like to get help." They come in when the drugs are gone. There's no money left. The family ties are broken. All the bridges are burned. There's nothing left for them.
Except suicide or get help.
Get help. That's it. You're right. So it's a crazy time.
End my life to an overdose or get help. One or the other.
Right. Yep. One way or another, you got to make a change.
And it's a gamble. And it was a gamble when I was doing it. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But the game has changed now with the way fentanyl can kill you immediately. And drug dealers don't care whether you die. Once you leave them, as long as they got your money, if you die, that's your problem, not theirs.
Excuse me. No. Sorry, I'm inhaling coffee.
Yeah.
No, you're right. They're cutting this stuff with all kinds of garbage. You have no idea what the strength is of the heroin or the fentanyl that you're getting. They're pressing this stuff into pill form, and you're taking this thinking, okay, that's whatever milligrams of fentanyl.
You have no idea.
You have absolutely no idea, and unfortunately, you get a hot shot, a hot dose. You're lucky to last an hour. So.
Yeah. We're going to take a break. You got time to stick around a little while longer?
Sure.
If you don't die on me first?
Yeah, don't call the medics.
Coffee going the wrong way. We're talking with Chief of Police Mike Balken from the Ocala Police Department. When we come back, we're going to look forward to 2022, see what, there is a strategic plan already in place, I'm sure. We'll look forward to what's going to happen in 2022. We'll also bring up, ask the Chief about the rash of shootings that have happened over the last couple of years. Hadn't heard about any recently, but it is a problem when kids are killing kids and kids are shooting kids, and it's something I'm sure that he is well aware of and has a plan for. We'll talk about all of that, plus we'll take your call. 622-9622 is the number to call if you'd like to talk to the Chief this morning. 622-9622 is the number to call if you'd like to talk to Chief Mike Balken of the Ocala Police Department. You're listening to Ocala Talks on January 3rd, the first Ocala Talk of the new year. We're coming to you from the studios of WOCA Radio, just off the runway of the Ocala International Airport in the Brick City, beautiful Ocala, Florida. This is 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, WOCA, The Source.